Hello everyone, my name is Jamie Brzezinski, and as a side hustle for the past 17 years, I've been coaching youth soccer in central Wisconsin. I've coached U9 through U19, I've coached club ball, and I've coached high school teams. I have even been persuaded to coach on staff at the collegiate level for short periods of time, once or twice. As these teams' photos have immortalized, my legacy as the shortest member of the back row squad has been firmly cemented in yearbooks and on family refrigerators throughout central Wisconsin. My players have taught me an immeasurable number of things over the years. For example, hip new tween speak, like the phrase side hustle. But right now, at this unprecedented time in history, let alone in youth sports, my players have led me to the conclusion that removing spectators from youth sports competitions, specifically those sanctioned by the WYSA, is the appropriate path forward to continue soccer in Wisconsin. COVID-19 has changed the very DNA of youth sports, and attempting to curtail player habits, once thought benign, like their incessant need to spit during conditioning, is straining the mental and the physical resources of coaches. We're trying to follow suggested guidelines to our best, but it's difficult. Players and coaches and referees, are self-screening, social distancing, and using appropriate PPE. However, attempting to enforce these type of guidelines on spectator sidelines is an unrealistic expectation of soccer clubs throughout the state of Wisconsin. Referees ultimately control soccer matches, and they continually monitor the conditions in which they're being played for safety. Referees, especially at the younger age levels, don't stand a chance of compelling non-compliant spectators to follow current WYSA guidelines. Adding this task to their already extended list of match time responsibilities is an unrealistic expectation. Recruiting and retaining both new and experienced officials in youth sports is really difficult. According to the NFHS, 80% of all officials quit after 2 years of beginning due to unruly coaches and fans. I fully admit that during my coaching tenure, I have vehemently disagreed with a referee's decision a time or two. However, my 12-year-old self remembers quitting refereeing after her first season because Gretchen's dad yelled at her for getting a throw-in possession incorrect. These experiences tend to really stay with kids. Not unique to soccer, but I think sideline behavior from spectators is at an all-time low in youth sports, just in general. Google youth sports parents, and some of the top hits are all about deplorable parental behavior at youth sporting events. The yelling, the throwing things, the physical altercations, it's all there on YouTube. I was at a college showcase tournament in Chicago, and our match had to be suspended because the U19 boys match on the field adjacent to ours had a full brawl breakout between their spectators. And so our referees from our match needed to go help with crowd control until the police could get there. Spectators influencing players during a game is also a huge aspect of soccer that would be improved without spectators. Parents coaching from the sidelines really only serves to confuse players and frustrate coaches. So even though Billy's dad may have played collegiate baseball, maybe he doesn't need to influence coaching decisions. I know some parents with youth players want to be on the sideline just in case an injury occurs, but most sanctioned tournaments have fully licensed athletic trainers available, and coaches are all trained on how to sort of triage things. But it's just safety would not be compromised by this decision. There's also technological advances that would allow for games to be streamed online as they were happening. So, FOMO is no longer a viable, reason for us not to move forward with this. The WIA has already instituted this on several state tournaments. This type of streaming technology could also be really beneficial to collegiate coaches during a recruitment process. So having match footage available that clearly shows how players communicate on the field with the lack of crowd noise would be a really useful tool for coaches at the collegiate level since they're having travel restrictions. And at the end of the day, players and parents are still going home together, and having those dinner conversations about what happened during a game would be a great conversation starter and open doors for that player-parent relationship. Having been involved with the facility maintenance side of youth sports complexes, I also think if you were to remove the spectators, it would provide a huge cost-saving measure to different clubs. If you're spending less money on cleaning and stocking facilities and providing other necessities, that money could be spent on other COVID responses. And I know a lot of players, parents will pay pretty high club fees to have their players play, and somehow feel entitled to being at those games. But if we in the soccer community can stem the transmission of COVID-19, how can we not make that concession to do so? The benefits of children playing sports are so far-reaching that any steps we can take to get these kids back in the game safely should be considered. So asking spectators to sacrifice that in-person experience, I think is within our capabilities. These players have already lost so much that we want to get them back. The So if we allow our kids the space and freedom without pressures from spectators, they're going to take chances. If you've ever seen kids miss a penalty kick or score an own goal, you know what that experience does to a player. So without spectators, they'd have an opportunity to cope with that. And so during this COVID-19 pandemic, it's given us an opportunity to really re-envision youth soccer in Wisconsin. And part of that new vision could eliminate spectators until we have a more permanent solution to move forward. So I would rather see the spectator sideline empty than the field.